Hi, I am Anna. I come from www.ntvforex.com. UK July CPI data higher than expected analysis http ntvforex.com news IDEA 1F5A8192020102900 AM notes observations UK July CPI data beats expectations and some hope for the future health of the economy focus turns to FOMC minutes Asia Japan July trade balance A 11.6 B VA 85.0 B exports YY 19.2% V 20.7% E imports YY 22.3% v 23.0% E coronavirus total global cases 22,059,933 1.1% DD total deaths 780.0 K 0.8% DD Europe PM Johnson reportedly to make minor cabinet changes in existing calls for an autumn reshuffle. PM only looking to make a minor adjustments after the summer recess before a full reset in the new year. Brexit trade talks set to stall again over British truckers' EU access. America's White House Chief of Staff Meadows reiterated that no new trade talks between US and China were scheduled. USTR Lighthizer continued talks with China counterparts on Phase 1 commitments. US Postmaster General Loyce DeJoy suspended all mail changes until after the November election. Senior U.S. official reported to say there is real desire among some U.S. Democrats and Republicans to reach a smaller stimulus deal of $500 billion. Agreement could include funding for the U.S. Postal Service, additional funding for loans to small and medium-sized businesses to keep workers on their payrolls and potentially added money for schools. Did not see aid to state and local governments in a fresh round of stimulus checks as possible at the moment. House Speaker Pelosi said to have hinted that Democrats might be willing to cut their stimulus proposal then wait until after November elections with additional agenda items. U.S. State Department asking colleges and universities to divest from Chinese holdings in their endowments. Energy Weekly API crude oil inventories 4.3 MV 4.4 M prior NBSP speakers fixed income FX commodities Iratum equities indices STOXX 6000 0.29% at 368.26, FTSE 0.11% at 6083.55. DAX 0.29% at 12,919.50, CAC 40 0.26% at 4,951.12, IBEX 35 0.19% at 7,057.00, FTSE MIB 0.50% at 19,945.50, SME 0.33% at 10,202.38, S&P 500 futures 0.14% market focal points key themes European indices open modestly lower across the board and later moved to trade mixed. Better performing sectors include utilities and materials, telecom and consumer discretionary sectors. Among those on the downside, Arnault and Lagardère families reach partnership agreement. Reportedly UK working to shorten quarantine at Heathrow. British Chamber of Commerce warns about business outlook. Reportedly a number of suitors interested in Capita Unit Dufry to acquire remaining interest in Hudson Norsk Hydro halts aluminium plant in Brazil for maintenance. Focus on renewed Brexit negotiations after EU rejects latest UK overture. Earnings expected in the upcoming US session include Analog Devices, Samsonite, and Nvidia. NBSP equities Energy RWE AGRWE.DE 4% capital increase. Healthcare Galapagos GLPG.BE 26% FDA letter. Industrials Maersk B.DK 5% earnings reinstates forecast. NIBE Industrier NIBB.SE 6% earnings, GN Store Nord GN.DK 1.5% earnings, Implenia Impen.CH 5% earnings. NBSP speakers Italy PM Conte said present recovery plan to EU by mid-October. PM said to agree with former ECB chief Draghi that need to strengthen instruments to give greater stability to euro area. South Africa Treasury noted that current spending path implied budget deficit to GDP of over 12%. WTO stated that it saw a partial uptick in world trade and output in Q3. L-shaped recovery in world trade could not be ruled out. Environment looking less pessimistic outlook but conceded that a V-shaped recovery might be overly optimistic. Head of German vaccine regulator if data from Phase 3 trials showed the vaccines were effective and safe, the first vaccines could be approved at the beginning of the year, possibly with conditions attached. Indonesia Central Bank by policy statement noted that to maintain loose monetary policy rate decision of keeping policy steady would help maintain external stability. To stay in quantitative path and continue FX stabilization measures. To monitor all indicators to take appropriate steps. Saw recovery beginning in Q3. Indonesia Central Bank Gov Warjio pre-rate decision press conference noted it would continue to strengthen monetary expansion and financing the 2020 budget deficit. Saw domestic recovery beginning in July following the Q2 contraction as stimulus measures would aid recovery. IDR currency rupiah remained stable but undervalued, still had room to appreciate. Japan Econ Min Nishimura virus test positivity rate was declining nationwide. NBSP currencies fixed income USD continued to be on the defensive against the major pairs. GBP USD was higher by 0.2% after UK July CPI data beats expectations and provided some hope for the future health of the economy. Data did provide some hesitancy that BOE might move into negative rates. Dealers caution that the data still would not hinder the BOE from easing policy further due to continued demand shock from virus outbreak. Euro USD holding above the 1.19 with the pivotal psychological level of 1.20 in the sights. NBSP economic data UK July CPI 0.4% v 0.1% EYY 1.0% v 0.6% ECPI core YY 1.8% v 1.2% ECPI HYY 1.1% v 0.7% EUK July RPI 0.5% v 0.1% EYY 1.6% v 1.2% ERPI XX mortgage interest payments YY 1.9% v 1.3% e-retail price index 294.2 v 292.9 UK July PPI input 1.8% v 1.1% EYY 5.7% v 6.1% EUK July PPI output 0.3% v 0.2% EYY 0.9% v 0.9% EUK July PPI output core 0.1% v 0.1% EYY 0.1% v 0.3% E at Austria July CPI 0.2% v 0.6% prior YY 1.7% v 1.1% prior ID Indonesia Central Bank. By left the 7-day reverse repo rate unchanged at 4.00% as expected. EU Eurozone June current account balance A 20.7 BVA 11.3 B prior PL Poland July employment 1.1% v 0.3% EYY 2.3% v 3.0% EPL Poland July average gross wages 1.8% v 0.9% EYY 3.8% v 2.9% EPL Poland OG consumer confidence 15.2 v 6.5 EIT Italy June current account balance A 3.4 BVA 2.3 B prior GR Greece June current account balance A 1.4 BVA 0.9 B prior UK June house price index YY 2.6% v 3.5% prior HK Hong Kong July unemployment rate 6.1% v 6.4% EU Eurozone July final CPI YY 0.4% v 0.4% ECPI core YY 1.2% v 1.2% ECPI 0.4% v 0.3% ESI Cyprus July CPI harmonized 0.2% v 0.4% prior YY 2.0% v 2.2% prior fixed income issuance in India sold total INR 350B versus INR 350B indicated in 3-month, 6-month, and 12-month bills. DK Denmark sold total DKK 5.27B in 2022 and 2029 bonds. SE Sweden sold total 12.5 billion Swedish kronor versus 12.5 billion Swedish kronor indicated in 3-month bills. Average yield 0.1726% v 0.1580% prior bid to cover 2.76x v 2.92x prior. UK DMO sold a 2.75B in 0.875%. October 2029 gilts average yield 0.153% v 0.261% prior bid to cover 2.38x v 3.19x prior tail 0.3 bps versus 0.1 bps prior NBSP. Looking ahead, IL Israel August 12th month CPI forecast no ESTV 0.5% prior UK BO buyback operation in APF gilt purchase operation 720 years 0530 to Germany to sell 0.0% August 2050 bunds 0530 PT Portugal debt agency IGCP to sell a 1.01.25B in 3-month and 12-month bills 0530 ZA South Africa announces details of next bond auction held on Tuesdays 0600 PT. Portugal July PPIMM no ESTV 0.5% prior YY no ESTV 5.7% prior 0645 US daily LIBOR fixing 0700 US MBA mortgage applications WE August 14th no ESTV 6.8% prior 0700 RU Russia to sell OFZ bonds 0800 UK daily Baltic dry bulk index 0830 CA Canada July CPIMM 0.4% EV 0.8% prior YY 0.6% EV 0.7% prior consumer price index 137.7 EV 137.2 prior CPI core median YY 2.0% EV 1.9% prior CPI core common YY 1.6% EV 1.5% prior CPI core trim YY 1.8% EV 1.8% prior 0830 CA Canada June wholesale trade. Sales MM 10.5% EV 5.7% prior 10.00 OPEC JMMC technical meeting 10:30 US weekly dough oil inventories 13.00 US Treasury to sell 20-year bonds 14.00 US FOMC July minutes 21:30 CN China monthly loan operation expected to leave 1-year loan prime rate at 3.85% expected to leave 5-year loan prime rate at 4.65% 21:30 Australia July RBA FX transactions data 22:00 SL Sri Lanka Central Bank CBSL interest rate decision expected to cut key rates by 50 bps expected to cut current standing deposit rate by 50 bps to 4.00% expected to cut current standing lending rate by 50 bps to 5.00% 23:00 KR South Korea Q2 short-term external debt no ESTV $148.5 billion prior 23:00 TH Thailand Central Bank to sell THB 35B in 2022 bonds 23:35 JP Japan to sell 5-year JGB bonds. Subscribe our channel to receive the news as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. If you want to read real-time news, text messages to MT5 Expert Advisors page at https://mt5.expert.advisors.